Ethan floated silently in the small shuttle, staring out at the vast black of space. Stars twinkled like distant promises, but none of them offered comfort tonight. He had been traveling through this sector for days, chasing rumors of abandoned colonies and lost stations. Some called this region cursed, but to Ethan, it was opportunity, the kind humans rarely found beyond the inner worlds. The shuttle's sensors suddenly picked up an anomalous structure drifting alone. Half-broken metal, battered and scorched from age and neglect. Its shape was jagged, like a giant metal skeleton floating in the void. It was a prison station, forgotten by all but time and the echoes of those it had trapped. A shiver ran down Ethan's spine, but curiosity pushed him forward. He landed the shuttle on a damaged docking platform. The station creaked in the void as though protesting his arrival. Dust swirled in the artificial gravity, and the faint smell of rust and decay reached him through the helmet's filter. Ethan grabbed his flashlight and stepped into the darkness. The corridors were narrow and claustrophobic. Broken lights flickered, revealing walls covered in scratches and crude drawings. Some told stories of families lost, some of rebellion, and some were just names etched into metal, screaming to be remembered. Every step Ethan took echoed as if the station itself were alive. Watching him, then he heard a soft, stifled sobbing coming from deep inside. He froze, his heart thumping. The sound was faint, almost a whisper, but it carried weight. A sorrow so raw, it made his chest ache. He followed it, careful to avoid the puddles of unknown liquids and jagged metal debris scattered across the floor. The crying led him to a small isolated cell. Inside, curled on the cold metal floor, was a Gurlor, something humanoid at least. Her skin shimmered faintly under the flashlight, almost like liquid silver in the dim light. She was tiny, fragile, and clearly terrified. Her eyes, wide and luminous, followed his every movement, filled with a mixture of fear and hopelessness. She had nothing. No blanket, no clothing, no warmth. Only the hard floor beneath her and the darkness around. Ethan swallowed hard. He knelt outside the cell, keeping his distance, trying not to scare her further. "Hey," he said softly. "It's okay. I won't hurt you." His words were meaningless to her, but the tone mattered. He reached into his pack and pulled out a small container of water, setting it just inside the cell, hoping she might understand. She didn't move at first, too frozen with fear, but eventually, her trembling hand reached for it. The more he watched her, the more he realized how alone she had been. Her tears streaked down her face, catching the light in a way that made Ethan's heart ache. No one should have to suffer like this, not even in a galaxy so vast and cruel. He tried to communicate, using gestures. Simple signs he had learned for interacting with alien species. He pointed to himself. "Ethan," then to her. "You." She shook her head but followed his gestures, curious despite herself. He mimed eating and drinking, encouraging her to come closer. Slowly she did, inch by inch, like a small, wounded animal testing a hand that might feed or harm it. While he distracted her, Ethan scanned the cell's door. It was locked, obviously automated, and the panel beside it was damaged. Sparks flickered from exposed wires, and he knew he had to be careful. One wrong move, and he could trigger an alarm or worse, electrocute her. He worked methodically, his hands steady, despite the adrenaline. Every click of the panel made his pulse quicken. Finally, the lock clicked. He opened the door carefully, keeping one hand on the wall in case she panicked and ran. She didn't move at first. Her eyes were wide, staring at the human who had just freed her. Slowly, she took a step forward, then another, until she was close enough that Ethan could see the faint scars along her arms, evidence of long captivity and abuse. Her shyness was almost tangible, a fragile shield she held around herself. The station suddenly shuddered. Ethan froze, ears straining. Somewhere in the depths, a mechanical worry began, growing louder. Automated defense drones, left over from the station's original security, had activated. They weren't programmed to recognize him, but any disturbance could make them hostile. He had to move quickly. "Come on," he whispered, gesturing for her to follow. The girl hesitated, then grabbed his hand, surprisingly strong for her size. Together, they ran down the narrow corridors, dodging broken pipes and falling debris. Sparks flew from the walls as the station groaned under its own weight, a reminder that it wasn't built to last this long. As they rounded a corner, one of the drones appeared, its red sensor eyes scanning the hallway. Ethan froze, calculating. The drone moved closer, its mechanical arm ready to strike. He grabbed a loose metal panel and threw it, distracting the drone long enough to slip past. The girl stumbled, but caught herself, her trust in him growing with every narrow escape. They found temporary refuge in a side room. It's filled with remnants of other prisoners' belongings, scattered blankets, broken toys, scraps of alien writing. The girl sank to the floor, exhausted, and buried her face in her hands, sobbing quietly. Ethan sat beside her, keeping a protective hand near her shoulder, but not touching, respecting her space. It's okay, he murmured. He didn't know if she understood the words, but he hoped the tone was enough. He checked his scanner. Another drone was approaching, and the station was unstable. The ceiling above them creaked ominously, a warning that time was running out. Ethan's mind raced. He had to get her to the shuttle, but the hallways were dangerous, and the drones seemed to patrol randomly. He scanned the room and found an old maintenance hatch. It was small, barely wide enough for him, but it might give them a shortcut to the outer docking area. He pointed to it, gesturing for her to follow. She nodded, eyes wary but trusting. As they crawled through the narrow passage, Ethan marveled at her resilience. Despite everything she had endured, captivity, starvation, isolation, she moved with determination, even helping him push aside debris that blocked their path. It struck him that her survival wasn't just luck. She had the instincts of someone who refused to die, someone who had endured more than most could imagine. They emerged near the docking bay. The shuttle was just where he had left it, but the bay doors were partially jammed. Ethan pushed with all his strength, finally wedging the doors open just enough. He helped the girl inside first, guiding her to a small seat. She curled up, shivering eyes wide as she took in the controls and lights. He set the shuttle to manual, then climbed in beside her. No sooner had he started the engines than the station groaned violently. A section of the metal wall collapsed, sending sparks flying. Ethan's hands worked the controls, dodging falling debris and recalculating the flight path. Behind them, the drones had detected movement and were starting to fire. He swerved, narrowly avoiding the shots, and the shuttle lurched as it left the station's immediate orbit. Once in open space, the adrenaline began to fade. The girl finally spoke, her voice a soft alien whisper. Ethan didn't understand the words, but the tone was unmistakable relief, awe, and a fragile hint of trust. He smiled, nodding reassuringly. "You're safe now." "We're safe." For the first time, she smiled, a small, tentative gesture. Ethan felt a warmth in his chest. She had been through so much, and yet here she was, alive. Her eyes glimmered with tiny specks of hope, fragile but real. He realized that rescuing her wasn't just about freeing a prisoner. It was about preserving the last spark of her people, the living proof of resilience in a universe that often seemed cruel and indifferent. As the shuttle drifted further into the black, Ethan looked out at the stars. He didn't know where they would go next or what dangers awaited them. But he knew one thing: he wouldn't let her suffer again. She was no longer alone, and together they would face whatever came. Navigating the void as human courage and alien resilience intertwined, and for the first time in what felt like forever, both of them allowed themselves to hope. The stars stretched endlessly outside the shuttle, calm and indifferent. Inside, Ethan checked the instruments again, ensuring everything was stable. The alien girl sat across from him, still curled up but watching him carefully. Her small hands fiddled with the edge of the seat as if touching. Something solid could anchor her to reality. Ethan glanced at her and gave a small nod. "We're not safe yet," he said softly, though he wasn't sure she understood. She only tilted her head, eyes wide, shimmering faintly like distant stars. He could see the intelligence behind them, the memory of what she had endured, and a spark of curiosity beginning to emerge. He adjusted the shuttle's course, setting a path to the nearest habitable planet. It was uncharted, barely recorded on human maps, but he had little choice. Staying in known space meant exposure, and he wasn't willing to risk her capture again. The engines hummed steadily, and for a brief moment, there was a sense of peace, a fragile bubble in the infinite void. But space had a way of reminding travelers that calm never lasted. A sudden alert flashed on the control panel. A patrol ship of unknown origin had detected them. Ethan's stomach tightened. He had no idea if they were hostile, friendly, or simply curious. Whatever they were, he knew they would ask questions. And she couldn't answer. "Stay down," he murmured, gesturing for her to keep low. She complied instantly, trusting him more than she trusted herself. Ethan manipulated the shuttle controls, weaving through asteroids and debris with practiced skill. The patrol ship pursued faster and larger, its sensors scanning the darkness. Minutes felt like hours. Ethan's mind raced. If they were caught, the girl would be taken again. He couldn't let that happen. Drawing on every trick he knew, he guided the shuttle through a narrow asteroid field. The patrol ship, too large and rigid, struggled to follow. Rocks smashed against its hull as it tried to maneuver. But Ethan slipped through a gap smaller than any human ship should pass. He exhaled deeply, adrenaline mixing with relief. The alien girl peeked at him, her eyes wide with awe. She reached out and touched the controls he had used to evade their pursuers. Ethan smiled faintly. "You're learning fast," he said. She didn't respond, but the movement of her hand was careful, deliberate. It struck him that her mind was sharp, even if her body had been weakened by imprisonment. As the shuttle approached the uncharted planet, Ethan noticed the atmosphere shimmer in unusual colors, soft greens and purples swirling in the clouds. The planet was alive, almost breathing, and he felt a strange sense of calm descend over him. This would be a safe place, he decided, somewhere far from those who had hunted her. Landing wasn't easy. The surface was rough, covered with jagged rocks and dense vegetation. Ethan had to adjust the shuttle multiple times, dodging trees that were taller than any building he had ever seen. Finally, it touched down, sending up a small cloud of dust and debris. He killed the engines and turned to the alien girl. "We're here," he said softly. She hesitated at the doorway, looking out at the alien landscape. Her eyes widened, reflecting the strange light, the towering flora, and the vast mountains in the distance. Then slowly she stepped forward. Every movement was cautious, as if she had never felt freedom beneath her feet before. Ethan followed her, keeping a careful watch. He had no idea what dangers this planet held, but for the first time since finding her, he felt hope. She paused beside a crystal-clear stream, touching the water gently with her fingers. She watched it ripple, fascinated, her previous fear momentarily forgotten. Ethan crouched beside her, smiling. "It's okay. You can explore," he said. She turned to him then, and though she didn't speak in words he understood, her eyes conveyed gratitude, relief, and something else, curiosity. She pointed to herself, then to him, then to the world outside, clearly asking a question. Ethan shrugged and nodded. "We're safe. For now. We'll figure it out together," he replied. Over the next few days they explored the immediate area. Ethan mapped safe zones, water sources, and edible plants, teaching her as much as he could. The alien girl proved to be highly adaptable. She mimicked his gestures, learned quickly how to use simple tools, began leaving small markings on the tree, signs of communication he was starting to understand. Despite her past trauma, she radiated resilience, and Ethan found himself impressed by her courage. One evening, while sitting near a campfire, Ethan noticed her drawing in the dirt. She sketched figures, some human, some alien, and scenes of captivity and escape. He studied them carefully, realizing she was telling her story without words. Each mark was a memory, a hope, or a warning. Ethan's heart ached as he traced the lines with his fingers. "You've been through so much," he murmured. She looked at him, eyes glimmering, then back to the drawings. It was as if she was allowing him to share her pain, a silent bond forming between them. As night fell, the alien girl finally spoke. Her voice was soft, musical, unlike anything Ethan had heard. He didn't understand the words, but the tone was warm, almost relieved. He nodded, smiling. "Yes, we will survive," he said, even if the words weren't exactly what she meant. Communication, he realized, was more than language. It was trust, shared experiences, and understanding through action. The following morning, they discovered signs of life, small creatures native to the planet. The alien girl froze at first, unsure whether they were dangerous. Ethan approached slowly, offering calm gestures. Eventually, she touched one of the small animals, a delicate creature with translucent wings. It didn't flee. She laughed to sound like wind chimes, delicate and joyful. Ethan's chest warmed. He had never heard such a pure sound. She had been through so much darkness, yet she could still find joy in small things. Days turned into weeks. Ethan realized that the alien girl was not only surviving, but thriving. She learned human gestures and simple words, mimicking them with ease. She explored further, climbing small hills, studying plants, and even helping Ethan in small ways, like gathering food or examining the shuttle's systems. He began to think of her not just as someone he had rescued, but as a partner, a companion, someone whose courage inspired his own. But even in this relative safety, danger lingered. From orbit, Ethan detected unusual energy reading ships scanning the sector, likely searching for them. He knew the ones who had captured her wouldn't stop. Their technology was advanced, ruthless. Yet he refused to panic. They had survived worse already, and he trusted the girl's instincts, now sharpened by weeks of observation and freedom. Together, they devised a plan, using the shuttle as a decoy. They would lure the searchers away while they remained hidden on the planet. Ethan explained the plan carefully, demonstrating how to operate basic controls. The alien girl watched intently, learning faster than he expected. When the time came, she helped guide the shuttle remotely, drawing on her memory of the station and the machinery they had encountered. It was a perfect plan, executed flawlessly. The search ships were drawn away, leaving them in peace, at least for now. With the immediate threat gone, they sat atop a hill, looking out over the alien landscape. The sun, or what passed for a sun on this planet, set in brilliant colors, painting the sky in purples, oranges, and greens. The alien girl leaned against Ethan, a rare moment of relaxation. He smiled, placing a hand on her shoulder gently, feeling the bond between them strengthen. "You're not alone anymore," he said quietly. She looked up at him, eyes shining with a mixture of trust and something like hope. For the first time since he had found her, Ethan felt they had a chance not just to survive, but to live, to thrive. As night fell, they camped under the stars, listening to the sounds of the alien wilderness. Ethan kept watch, but for the first time he allowed himself to rest, knowing she was beside him and safe. The journey was far from over. The galaxy was vast and filled with unknown threats. But together they were stronger than anything that could come for them. The alien girl, once broken and hopeless, now smiled more, explored more, and began leaving markings of their progress maps, symbols and reminders that life, even after darkness, could flourish. Ethan watched her, amazed at how resilient she was, how much life could survive even in the harshest conditions. He realized that humanity wasn't the only species with courage, but humans had a unique drive to protect, to fight, and to hope. Together, they embodied human courage paired with alien resilience. The next day, Ethan started planning their long-term survival. He would teach her more, help her recover strength and confidence, and together, they would figure out how to rebuild her life. Perhaps one day they would return to her people if any survived. But for now, they were alive, free, and no longer prisoners. The universe was vast, yes, but so was the potential for hope. And so, beneath the alien sun and the endless stars, a human and an alien girl, once broken by life, began to reclaim it. One step at a time, they moved forward, knowing that together, nothing could break them again.